Okay, Shabbat Shalom. This is the Sightedmoon audio newsletter, January 29th, 2021. Um, it's called Love and Respect. And today is the 16th day of the 12th month. And I saw the full moon yesterday. It was so bright. Um, Before I start, I just wanted to mention regarding all this political divide and fake news and people saying this is a conspiracy theory and the 17th letter and all these things. You know what? I would admit I would be a sheep and just being led to believe all these strange theories and strange ideas about alt- from the alternative press or the alternative alt news, I guess you would call it, non-mainstream sources. But you know what is actually red pilling me more to accepting it is the censorship. The censorship. If they just let it be and just say, okay, it's okay to talk about this. Let's talk about it. Let's investigate it. But no, there's so much. It's so much like the Streisand effect. Where they're saying, don't read this, don't go there. If you do that, you're this, and they're labeling all these people who are just normal, regular people that are patriotic and just want to be, free and have their own opinions as being the worst people on the earth or as criminals and all this stuff. And that's not true. There's something really that's gonna red pill people unless you just have no critical thinking ability. You're just gonna believe everything being fed to you is the truth. So that's all I have to say about that. January 30th. So again, it was a riddle, not a command. Yeah, excellent. We went through that the previous newsletter. Shabbat Kids Ministry live interview with Mark and Cyrus. So they did a live interview with Mark Webb and Cyrus Harding. I knew both of them had information about certain things that would be of interest to the other one and myself, as well as all of you. So once we turned off the video, we were just talking afterwards. They shared some things that were pretty awesome, and we regretted turning off the video. You can watch the video at this link. I'll just open it up. Both of them wrote me and said how much they enjoyed our talk. So I asked them to come again this Monday. Whoa, it's coming up at 3 p.m. We will go live on Facebook. That'll probably be banned by Facebook if they're talking about things I think they're talking about. If you felt the last interview was great, then I think this one could just about stun all of us. I'm very excited about what was said. Join us live February the 1st, Monday. The new year begins in 2 weeks. Um, it might, maybe not in Canada because it's going to be totally cold. But hey, if there's barley and there's enough that it's Aviv in Israel, the wild barley, then yeah, totally agree then. So February 13th at sunset. So that will start the new year. It's going to be interesting how that will connect with the 17th letter there. Are you ready? Have you been getting ready? It is now here. If it's not that day, then it'll be March the 13th, around then. Weigh the evidence and you and your family decide. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the equinox, agreed. And I have to just mention in passing that some of the opinions and views said on this from me may not reflect those of Sightedmoon. They are my own opinions. Just disclaimer. It has nothing to do with calculating dates. It has everything to do with Genesis 1. Okay, totally agree. Letting Jehovah use the sun to warm the earth. Mature the barley so that we have the very first fruits to offer as a wave offering on the morrow after the weekly Sabbath. Disagree there. During the days of unleavened bread. You need to learn this and then teach others in your kingdom. Why in your kingdom? The 12th month we are in right now will be a 30-day month. There will be no guessing about when the holy days are in the first month. There will be no guessing. Okay. Friday, February 26th, at sunset, and Saturday will be the 14th, the preparation day, the day Yeshua was killed. We we should have paid. Okay. Saturday after sunset, February 27 will be the start of the High Holy Day. Actually, I might be doing both this one and then the one in the following month in March, just because I am a little skeptical of it being this early. But hey, double the blessing, I guess, right? I don't know. Double the matzos. Um, so you'll have to make some this year, as I do not think there will be any in the stores this early. Actually, if you go to a Jewish supermarket, they will have them year round, actually. So go to a Jewish area, you will find them at the grocery. All leaven is to be out of your homes by this date as well. Oh, no leaven. Yikes. Yeah, good point. I didn't think about that one. You are to remove all leaven, throw it out, or eat it before this day. Do not rob yourself of the potential blessings you could receive if you obey. February 27th, Saturday, after sunset, is when the Passover lamb is to be eaten. You do not have to eat lamb, but this is when the meal is eaten. It is eaten on the first high holy day, and I have to mention, with your sandals on and everything, you're ready to go. So maybe the modern equivalent would be you're all packed up and ready to go. You're wearing your outside shoes, maybe, or your coat and all that. You're ready to leave your house as a rehearsal, as a practice, not just as a joke. You're actually ready in case something happens. You will leave. Uh, anyway, that's the practice we're supposed to rehearse. It's a dress rehearsal. These are shadows of things to come, meaning they will come. Just like the Feast of Trumpets is a rehearsal for the return of Yeshua. We're rehearsing it, but it will come. He is coming quickly. He said so himself. Begins at sunset at the end of the weekly Sabbath, goes into, okay, it's the first day of unleavened bread. So I'm still waiting on, is there going to be enough barley? So we'll see. I think it's just below this. Goes into Sunday. Okay, hold on a sec. Hold on a second. I believe hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute right now. The High Holy Day, okay, the first day of unleavened bread, begins at sunset at the end of the weekly Sabbath, goes into Sunday. This is also the same date for the wave sheaf day. Isn't wave sheaf the morrow after the Sabbath? That would be the following day. It would actually be Monday. Because personally, it's just what I've learned, what has made me understand. It isn't when it says the morrow after the Sabbath. It's not talking about the weekly Sabbath. It's talking about the high day, the holy Sabbath, the holy, the first day of unleavened bread. That's a holy day. It's a Sabbath of rest. That's what it's talking about. So the wave sheaf, or that wave sheaf day is actually going to be on Sunday uh, sunset to Monday sunset. So that's my understanding of it, and I proved it on one of my videos there. Um, so do watch that. March 5th at sunset to March 6th sunset will be the seventh day of unleavened bread. After this, you can eat leaven again. Yay. Here's Becca's report about the barley. Judge and make your decision. Okay. So she says, I'll play it. Let me just put on my headphones. I guess you can hear the sound too. So it's an hour? It's an hour? For real? It's an hour? That's long. I don't know if I can watch an hour.
Okay, this is a prelude to the video that we did last night, which was January 27th, on the field. There's not a lot of fields I can see right now in Israel. The field that I've been following here very close to the house. First of all, there's some things that need to be clarified. I had a document sent to me that listed all these diseases that can happen to barley, and that the first fruits had to be free from disease and basically not harmful. Okay, so to address that, I was not attempting to harvest anything that would resemble a first fruits quantity, or to harvest anything that I would refer to as a first fruits from that field. What I'm
Presumably.
attempting to do is just to show you what happens to barley when it's harvested at a certain stage, how quickly the liquid will evaporate, the moisture will evaporate out of that barley once it's been disconnected from the root. And that really is the key word, is from the root. The stem, the stalk, does not make a big difference. It's when it's disconnected from that root that you see a very significant change in the grain in a very short period of time. So to address the issue of whether or not the barley was diseased, no, I don't believe it was. I mean, I went ahead and separated the grains from the stalk or the stem, uh, in order to, so when I roast it in the morning, it's going to be easy. But there's, I mean, there's, I can put a picture in this video. There's no mildew. There's no black mold. When the barley molds, it gets the black fuzzy moldy look on the outside of the grains here. This is actually quite beautiful barley. Some years the barley is very skinny and very small. This is beautiful barley. So it is not, I would not call this barley unhealthy at all, but it doesn't matter. There's no temple and I'm not taking a first fruits. I'm simply going through the motions here to show you how
I'm going to get to the
quickly,
end and
when
just
barley
see
is
if she
harvested
concludes it
in
here.
a dough stage, that point after it's no longer slimy, how quickly that will dehydrate and actually go to a flour. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to address is that if this was my field, if I was the farmer, and if I was worried about a first fruits offering, I would not have harvested the barley that I harvested yesterday, because when it stays attached to the roots, it lasts longer. If I had left this barley in the field, it would not be as hard as it is today and as it's going to be tomorrow. Okay, so this is a little bit more than 24 hours since I brought this home. And see if we can take a grain out. Whoops.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
Pasture sheep was out of there. I could absolutely go in there and cut plenty to have a basic, like what, 2 quarts of barley flour on wave sheaf without a problem. Okay, so that's enough of this. Let's go to the Zoom meeting. So I did go back to the field today, and I'm going to tell you that it was really quite shocking what I saw. I was not expecting to see this much change in the field. I'm going to go to the whiteboard here and try to draw you a little picture of the shape of the field so I can talk about the sections of it. Okay, so this line up here would be,
fast forward to the
there's a
end.
gas
See if
station
there's
sitting
like
up here. Well, I've shown you the gas station in that
51
picture.
minutes, 57 minutes.
Over here, there's a traffic circle.
This is a long.
Sorry, these are not going to be super round.
Let's see. Let's go right there. See what she says from that point. Maybe she summarizes
Right.
it.
That's
What
right.
ifs? Just like pow, it's right there.
Yep. 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 I agree. I agree. No, I would not, with the condition of the barley in the field, I would not be comfortable making a wave sheaf right now. Not at all. I honestly even think that even if all of that was there in the center of it, because remember this barley, the wild barley especially, the field ebbs and flows. Okay, it doesn't start at one end and run uniformly across the field. There in the wild fields, there are little rises and falls. Even if the total field is slanted. Within that, there's a waving motion of rising and falling. And it's in those rises where the barley is going to ripen first,
Hmm.
because the water drains away from those rises, those little elevations in the soil. Okay, so we can't say, oh, wow, because this barley is at this point, then that whole Liparin would have been at that point. We simply can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not comfortable at all saying if Asher's sheep had not eaten that, then we would be ready for that first fruits offering. In fact, if I'm going to point something out, I'm going to point out to you that they left this mature stuff behind.
Hmm.
Are you following that train of thought? What
Yep.
they want is like a silage. They want like a softer dough that's moist,
Mm-hmm.
that they can chew. Okay, they're not wanting something that's harder. So in my book, what I see they have left is the more mature stuff. They left that behind.
Interesting. Okay.
And thank you for helping me talk my way through that. That is exactly why I would not be happy to have said, oh no, we've made a mistake. We have to call that we're in the middle of unleavened. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Hmm.
I believe that what was left was the more mature stuff, and they ate the bitter, the
Hmm.
better grains that
The
had more
better.
nutrition.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Becca.
You're welcome.
So we're still looking at the 26th as
Yes.
Pathfinder.
Yeah, we're looking at the next new moon, starting the count to the hog. Um, yes, thank you. It was Ezekiel. That's what it was. I thought it was, but I wasn't really sure. I couldn't remember for sure. I wasn't sure enough to say so. So what I'm going to be doing now next with this barley that I have, I'm going to roast the two samples separately. The greener from the east side, I'm going to roast it and husk it and grind it. And then I'll take the more mature stuff and I will do it separately and do the same thing. Um, and I will make a video on that process. And uh, I may not get the video up of the inspection until the first of the week, because we're just, it's really busy right now. We've got a lot going on, but I will get that out there. And anyway, my explanation to you was going to be verbal anyway, to let you know why that we're going to be keeping the hogs next month.
Hmm. Wow. Just a thought. She's doing really good work. She really is doing. People say you're doing God's work. She's literally doing God's work to help a lot of people determine the new year based on the scriptural barley. My only thought that came up during that video, or not only thought, but was we need someone. I mean, she's only one person doing it. And I mean, 100 years from now, who's going to be doing it to pick up after her reliable witness? Because I mean, everyone else is kind of they're very they're not doing it the same way she is, and she seems to be even more um, precise and more knowledgeable about not just the bare minimum of knowing when is something right, but to even the exact degree of ripeness and just all the subtleties and intricacies of going into this no pun intended, this field of of uh, of barley, of the examining the barley. That's such a field of expertise, no pun intended again, or maybe pun intended, but wow. So Becca sent me this video after I posted this newsletter. She roasted the barley that she picked to see if it could be formed into flour for a wave sheaf offering. Okay, let's play this. It's nice to have a break every now and then, not be the only one talking. Let's see what she says.
I will
Here.
sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will
It's
sing.
just really loud.
I will sing.
Gotta turn it down a bit.
I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord. Woke up this morning with a heart full of peace and gratitude. I am freezing outside.
It's cold there? Didn't know it was cold over there. I thought it was just cold over here.
Not the commercial methods that I've been watching, but the one for the
And
airplane
fast forward
that
to
went out. And
about 9 minutes. See what she says the last 3 minutes. See, she roasted it.
touch
And
everything.
is she eating it?
If you'll notice, and I hope you don't, when you see my fingernails, they're always got a little yuck in there. Not yuck, just.
That's what farmers. That's what happens to farmers.
Tactile. I have to touch things.
It means you're working hard. Okay, I'm not sure.
Okay, this first pass, I'm just going to be trying to get the outer husk off the barley.
Oh wow, look at that machine. Who's gonna pick up her legacy or her knowledge? Like, who's gonna pick up the baton? Who's she gonna pass it to? There needs to be an apprentice. Hopefully she has a daughter that can pick it up for her. Or a son, whoever, or somebody that will continue this very needed, essential service. Really, it really is one of the most essential services determining the new year and the subsequent holy days. Okay, it's kind of getting.
Here's what is in there. You can see, if you look down in there, there's lots of flour. It's barley flour right there. And dirty fingers. I'm going to go try to blow the husks away from this. I hope I don't blow the barley away. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I'm learning as I go too. I ended up blowing some of that barley away. It was finer. I set it on groats on the grinder, but it was finer than I wanted it to be. And I ended up blowing some of that barley away, but there's still quite a bit of it. There is some fine sticks left in there. Not many, but there still is quite a bit of the barley flour from that batch. And that was the, I believe that was the batch, yeah, that was the batch from the center bit of the field. And there's quite a bit of barley there. Hey guys, that's a little bit better sieving. I was not happy to show you, I'm making a mess, like it's everywhere. Show you the other with so many sticks in it. I wanted you to more clearly be able to see the flour of the barley. Actually, I used a groat setting on the grinder that's a little finer than groats. But anyway, that is pretty much now pure barley flour as I've taken out the rest of that chaff from what was ground.
Wow. Farming is not easy. Prophecy unfolding before you. Okay. I'm not going to comment on that. Yep, not commenting on that, not touching that. Yeah, there's definitely food disruptions. I agree with that. I don't agree with this. This was, we know who did that. It's Panty. Those Panty people. Panty. Fa la 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 la. The majority of those who supported the actual president were peaceful, and those who actually were misled, they were following like lemmings. Those people who went inside, they were just taking pictures and selfies. They weren't part of that um, actual violent part, which we know is infiltrated. Take heed of the promise at the end there. Okay. I do not feel qualified to share this next teaching with you. I'm not qualified at all. Okay, I guess I'll read this. This is hard for me to read. My marriage has failed miserably. One of the things I hated the most was getting advice from people who were 2 or 3 times divorced. No, this next teaching was originally for me. I have read it many times before I decided to share it with you. Each time it brings tears to my eyes as I see the things that triggered me and the things I did and the examples that follow. And yet I know many of you suffer from the very same things discussed herein. But it is not just for husbands and wives, it is also for fathers and daughters, mothers and sons, male and female, basically. I know some of you won't read this. That is too bad. Actually, you know what? Ironically, I might read it because I don't think it's political. I know being alone and spending my golden years alone is not what I wanted. But each time I read this, I am reminded of how my own marriage was derailed by my actions and by my wife's reactions to how each of us treated each other in our disputes. We both erred, and now we both suffer because we could not figure out how to get off the crazy cycles we kept getting on. May you not be as stubborn and pig headed as we were to change. Love and respect. We're about to begin 7 lessons dealing with love and respect. I've been looking at the subject in relationship to my marriage and its recent breakup. I have known about many of these things for many years. I contacted the author and asked if he would do an online teaching for us, but our group size was not big enough. I most certainly do not feel qualified in the least to teach the subject to you, but I also know that to learn a subject well, you need to teach it. There are many things that have been said to me in this ministry this year, which showed me that many of you are lacking in these qualities. I've already admitted I am. So, for all our sakes, I'm going to share this 7 part series with you, and perhaps, just maybe, a few of you will get it, maybe even me. Do the number one thing in a conversation that, according to research, can most help your relationship. During conflict, how do you sound in your marriage? When the two of you first met, your conversations were carried along with a tone of love and respect toward each other that made your relationship meaningful. Research on tone in marriage. After studying 2,000 couples for 20 years, a researcher said in the book, Why Marriages Succeed or Fail, most couples over the years really wanted just 2 things from the marriage: love and respect. Everywhere we read in our study of long term marriages, we recruited couples from a wide range of backgrounds who had been married 20 to 40 years. Where's my glasses? 20 to 40 years to the same partner. Despite, I found my glasses. I think it's under this thing. Despite the wide differences in occupations, lifestyles, and the details of their day to day lives, I sense a remarkable similarity. I'm just going to hold this up close to me. Despite the wide differences in occupations, lifestyles, and the details of their day to day lives, I sense a remarkable similarity in the tone of their conversations. It's too loud. It's hurting my ears. Hurting my own ears. In a sec. I do this without falling. Oh, too late. What was that? Oh, it's something. Okay. Okay. I don't want to make myself deaf, so let's turn it down a bit. Okay. Despite the wide differences in occupations, lifestyles, and the details of their day to day lives, I sense a remarkable similarity in the tone of their conversations. No matter what style of marriage they have adopted, their discussions, for the most part, carried along by a strong undercurrent of two basic ingredients: love and respect. I predict you had this tone early in the relationship. This raises this question: is that tone of love and respect still present? When you talk to your spouse, do you sound loving and respectful? I'm not saying they deserve to be talked to this way in light of something they may have done that deeply hurts you. I'm only saying that the research reveals that when you sound hostile and contemptuous toward your spouse as a human being, whom your spouse is as a human being, your spouse will not hear your deepest heart, not long term. This may not be fair, but it is a fact. Gender vulnerabilities. Is this attitude and tone of love and respect really the key? The Bible said the same 2,000 years ago in Ephesians 5:33, which is the summary verse to the greatest treatise in the Bible on marriage. There, God commands the husband to love and the wife to respect. However, the Bible highlights a gender difference. Generally speaking, wives need love and husbands need respect. Along with you, I wondered why, especially since wives need respect and few wives feel respect for their husbands. Also, I knew everyone needed love and respect equally. So, why is the husband commanded to love and the wife commanded to respect? Is this an antiquated worldview? I found something fascinating. I asked 7,000 people this question: when you are in a conflict with your spouse, do you feel unloved or disrespected? 83% of the husbands said they felt disrespected. 72% of the wives said they felt unloved. Yeah, looking back, I think definitely felt disrespected most of the time, but maybe sometimes where you have arguments, you do feel unloved to a degree, but that I think that's when there's just no communication. I think that's probably when that would happen, but in the heat of everything, you feel disrespected because you're not given an equal voice, or you're uh, you're just being disregarded, and it's like they don't trust you. It's like a mistrust feeling, and when someone doesn't trust you, it feels like they don't respect you. So I think that's probably where that stems from. Anyway, that's just my own personal opinion. True need and felt need. Stunning. Though everyone needs love and respect equally, the left, on the left, been reading too many political stuff. The felt need differs among husbands and wives during conflicts. This was statistically significant. Doesn't a husband need LOVE? Absolutely. But apparently, during conflict, most husbands are assured of their wives' love. Women love to love. Ask Harry, does your wife love you? He'll reply, yes. Then ask, does she like you? He'll answer, no, not today. If the wife is listening, she's apt to chime in. He's right. I love him a ton. But right now, I don't like him nor feel any respect for him. He forgot my birthday, told me he cannot make our daughter's piano recital. I'm hurt and I'm mad. He doesn't deserve my respect. He hasn't earned it. Doesn't a wife need respect? Absolutely. But no movie ends with the hero embracing the rescued damsel and declaring, I want to respect you the rest of my life. Well, because Hollywood is satanic. That's besides the point. It's off topic there. What they usually do, they go into the hay and they roll around there. Furthermore, there's not one card in the whole card industry from a husband to wife that says, Baby, I really respect you on our anniversary. I can't I can't not laugh. So I'm not even apologizing. Uh, what's my point? Generally speaking, most wives hear the unloving tones coming from their husbands. She knows that she cares. She knows that she cares. All research reports the female is the caregiver, and this finding is off the charts. But she wonders, does he care as much as she does? I remember that question. You don't love me as much as I love you. If you only knew. That's the answer. If you only knew. Men, we'd give our lives for women. Like, that's the truth. If they only knew that. But they either don't know it or they choose not to believe it. But, what can you do? Can't convince people. Many wives have said to me, I wonder if he loves me as much as I love him. A wife can feel insecure about his love and filter his actions and reactions through the love grid. One of the most commonly asked questions of a wife toward her husband is, Do you love me? Or a common request is, Tell me that you love me. In conflict, she interprets anger, harshness, or stonewalling as unloving. She hears it that way. The topic at hand is secondary to the fact that she is now feeling unloved. And women gravitate more towards emotions and feelings, and men are more towards logic and facts and, just getting stuff done. I don't know. Men are more business oriented, women are more about the caring aspects, and we need each other to work a life. I mean, you can't just have men doing all business and no emotion. You can't have all emotion and no business. So life requires both. I've learned just right now. Just learned that right now. There's a reason for everything. She won't hear much. She won't hear much else of what the husband is trying to say. Even if she feels disrespected week after week, she'll eventually land on love as her foundational need by exclaiming, How can you say that you love me and treat me disrespectfully? In the same way, most husbands hear the disrespectful tones coming from the wives, and when they do, they won't hear much else of what the wives are trying to say. Even if the wife is expressing her love, in fact, some men get irritated while hearing her say, I am saying these things because I love you. Yeah, I mean, depends how she says it, right? The tone. He is apt to say, I know you love me, but still shut down in hurt and anger. He filters her criticism as disrespect for who he is as a human being, and he pulls back emotionally. No husband feels fond feelings of love and affection toward a wife he feels despises who he is as a human being, even though he knows she loves him. Are you newly married or wanting to make sure the marriage starts off on the right foot? Are you 8 years into the marriage and want to refresh the relationship, or are you in crisis and wanting to deal with the breakdown of trust? What I know is if your tone sounds hostile and contemptuous, no matter how justified you are in what you say, you will prevent good things from happening in the relationship. You will stall any forward progress. I'm not saying your spouse will respond to a loving and respectful tone. I'm only saying they will not respond to your hostile and contemptuous tone. This works, though there is no absolute guarantee. I have seen good things happen again and again from the right tone while addressing issues. This is the case with a newlywed or a victim of adultery. Adultery. This is never fair to the innocent, but it is required for future success. Even if you feel your spouse is 90% to blame for the marital tensions, I have found that when you move forward on your 10% and determined to sound loving and respectful, something miraculous begins to happen. Most guilty parties start to soften and respond more positively. The removal of hostile and contemptuous tone works wonders. Yeah, actually, I remember in the past, I reset everything. I said to myself, you know what? Why is it that when you start a relationship, all you want to do is just learn about that person and hear them out? You have like all the time in the world, or so it seems, that you just want to hear what's your favorite this, what's your favorite that, why is this? You want to learn everything about them in a certain span of time. And then once you lose interest, you don't care about that stuff anymore. Like you're not asking those same questions. You don't. It's like you've learned everything about that person, or so you think. Although there's always something new to learn about people, especially those who are important to you. But if you don't take the time and the effort to discover those things, you're gonna just you're gonna stagnate. It's kind of like, I mean, a relationship with our creators, of course, it's infinite, but I mean, with your spouse or someone that's close to you, it's important that you're always trying to learn more about them and just grow in your relationship. And you don't grow in it unless you learn about each other and yourself and the dynamics that are going on. So that's something I really started to do when I just made a conscious effort to do that. And it really changed everything. And even my tone was a big part of that, because I realized a lot of times I would just dominate conversations, and I couldn't wait for that person to just stop talking so I can chime in. But I realized, you know what? God gave us 2 years, so we spend more time to listen and less time talking. So, anyway, today's question: do you sound loving and respectful when upset, or does your spouse hear hostility and contempt in your voice? Today's question or action: before speaking, ask yourself, is that which I'm about to say, my conversational tone, going to sound loving and respectful to my spouse? Number two, apply the 60-second test toward your spouse that reveals the power you have to influence the relationship. Would you like a video version of the 15-day plan? Video version. Now back to number two in the plan. Do you know how to fill your spouse's emotional air tank? Making deposits works. God designed your spouse to respond to your expressions of love and respect. It works. Weekly, I receive emails like these. A wife writes, I'm sad that I've been married 22 years and just now began to understand the respect message. I wrote my husband 2 letters about why I respected him. I am amazed at how it has softened him in his response to me. I have prayed for years that my husband would love me and speak my love language. But when I begin to speak his language, then he responds with what I have wanted. Yeah. Husband emails, I live in Hungary and have received your book from my brother. We are both undergoing difficulties in our marriages. I started to read it immediately and it has helped a lot. My wife has realized my unconditional love approach and has become far more respectful to me. What is more, I discovered the old romantic, loving feelings in me toward her that have been buried during the last years because of our crazy cycles. And yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. When you start to be more respectful and you just ask, okay, what happened? What did I do at the beginning of the relationship, and why am I not doing them? And why just try doing, like, you're starting over and getting to know them all over again, and you're listening to them, and you're being patient. You're using your tone and attitude and approach are all respectful and loving. You're keeping that at the forefront of your mind. It changes everything. Like, you're gonna barely fight, and then you do. It's like doesn't even start. It fizzles out the fights. I mean, um, do the respect test. Say to your husband, I was thinking of you today and a couple of things about you that I respect. And I want you to know I respect you. Then exit the room. I predict he'll follow you or call you back to find out what. Yeah, I would have said, what? What are you talking about? Tell me what you mean. At that moment, say something from your heart like, I respect your goodwill toward me and the family. You're a good willed man. Thank you. In most instances, you'll observe the positive energy enter his spirit. This illustrates the influence you have in the marriage. Actually, he's going to be like, wow, I feel appreciated. Didn't think anyone would notice. If he asks, why are you saying this? It's like a show. Why are you saying this? What did you do with my old wife? Just remark that it struck you as very true. And you wanted him to know what you felt. Like, all right, thank you. A gal writes, I did the respect test tonight when I got home. I complimented him on how well he took care of everything while I was gone and how it was so kind of him to let me go to the conference and the way it made me feel. So much respect for him. A few minutes later, he suggested that we all go shopping together. What? Then he told me how important our marriage is to him. A couple of weeks ago, we weren't even speaking. Whoa. You did good. A wife writes, we have a good marriage, but I've always known that something was missing. I think it was respect towards him. I just didn't know he needed it. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to love him more because in my heart, I knew I wasn't meeting his needs. Do the love test. Say to your wife, I was thinking of you today and a couple of things about you that I love and want you to know I love you. Then exit the room. I'd just run away. I predict she'll follow you or call you back. Hey, get back here to find out what. Man, this is a game. The game is being played. At that moment, say something from your heart like, I love your goodwill toward me and the family. You're a good willed woman. Thank you. Actually, I wouldn't say that. I'd say, like, I love how you appreciate me and the family. You're an appreciative person, woman. Thank you. Sorry, because I said person. People kind. In most instances, you'll observe the positive energy enter her spirit. feel like it's like a shaman. It's entering my spirit. I'm just kidding. This I can't go on. We're gonna go for 3 hours. This illustrates the influence you have in the marriage. If she asks, "Why are you saying this?" just remark that it struck you as very true. I just wanted you to know how I felt. Husband emails. Your message seemed counter to everything I saw in the culture. Amen. And to my own self interest. Yeah, it's not about you. It's not all about you. But when I applied love to my life, love to my wife, Shazam! My wife responded to it, and my marriage got better. Did it ever? Sorry, I added that, obviously. Let me insert. This is not a theory or formula to test as much as it is a commitment to meet your spouse's need, which they will have for the rest of their lives. By way of analogy, a husband should never say, we'll try out your theory, Emerson, about loving a wife. I will test this out, but if it doesn't work to my satisfaction, I am not continuing. No, whatever your spouse's response may be, loving and respecting unconditionally is always the path to take. The energizing cycle. What are some specific things you might consider doing? I refer to it as the energizing cycle. His love motivates her to respect. What? His love motivates her respect, and her respect motivates his love. When we meet our spouse's need, filling their emotional tank, they tend to desire to reciprocate. I love this newsletter. So much laughs. Oh, how can I say this not jokingly? It's going to be so hard not to. Fill her love tank with love deposits. Decode her negativity as a cry for love, not as a put down of you. Yeah, that's a good point. I could have learned that a long time ago. Do not take up offense, but stay calm. Actually, no, I did try to do this. I realized, you know what? All these things being said is not about me. It's not an attack on me. It's something that is going on that's outside of me. Something that she's feeling. So I got to be like, okay, if I was her, why is she telling me this? So I got to take my shoes off and put hers on. Try to respond to her need for love rather than point out to her that she's negative and disrespectful. Yeah, it's true. It's like, okay, what's going on? What's really going on here? Tell me what you're feeling. And if they don't want to say it, then I mean, what can you do, right? This will energize her. Though you are offended by her disrespect, ask her if you were unloving earlier and apologize. I don't know. You don't just apologize for no reason, but if there is something and she tells you what it was, then yeah, apologize for it. Sure. Watch her soften and probably apologize for her disrespect. Don't defend yourself when this appears to her as self-justification and blame pacing. Yeah, that's when you're defending yourself, it's not a good move. It's just starting a fight or uh, adding fire to the flame or oil to the whatever, you know what I mean, fuel to the fire. Try to listen first to her complaint. Try to empathize first. When she has deflated over your unloving reaction, go to her and say, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Few things release the negativity in the spirit of a woman like an apology. Truly, she feels enlivened. Energize her by succeeding where you failed. She doesn't expect you to be perfect, but to rebound on the heels of your mistakes. This blesses her. Fill his respect tank with respect deposits. Though he makes blunders, let him know you believe in his goodwill. This will energize him. Don't display contempt for his maleness when he feels the motive behind his actions are rooted in his desire to do the honorable and right thing. For instance, does he go quiet to prevent a conflict from escalating? That's me. Is he trying to be unloving or to do what is honorable among men? And that's what I used to say. I'm just saying, you know what? I don't want to make things worse than they are. So rather than keep talking about it or yelling, I'm just going to walk away, cool down, come back, and we can talk about it when I'm calmer. But anyway, whatever. that's that's besides the point. It's like I'm reliving it all over again. Ask before talking to him, will my words sound like disrespect to him? And even ask him if you sounded disrespectful. Watch him soften and express appreciation for trying to understand him without judging him as egotistical. So, yeah, if she said, uh, did I sound disrespectful? And I'll go, yeah, yeah, hate to admit it, but, if you want me to be truthful, yeah, it did sound disrespectful. And then she'll apologize. Or wait, doesn't say that. That's what we want. Will you apologize, please? Say that felt unloving. Not you're unloving. Yeah, that felt. So it's not the person, it's what they said. Address the issue instead of attacking him. Yeah, if she said to me, what you said was unloving, I'd be like, yeah, okay, guilty as charged. But if she said you're unloving, go, hey, watch it. Watch it. I'm not unloving. I'm very loving. Address the issue instead of attacking him. You'll stay engaged in the conversation, especially when you add, I need your strength when I feel vulnerable. That's a good line. Like, okay, right here. Strength available. Why assassinate his character when you need his good character qualities? Good point. The respect toward a husband is foreign to most women. Trust and obey God's word in Ephesians 5 and 1 Peter 3. Avoid cynicism and mockery of this idea in front of your husband. Don't let your fears persuade you that you will become a doormat and lose all power. Exactly. Man, we're not here to use anyone as a doormat, um, and to take people's power away. We want to protect and to empower, but we can only do that if we feel respected. And yeah, I think that's it. Just let us lead, and it'll all be good. Believe just the opposite as you look beyond your husband to the Lord. Today's question: though you have not intended to make more withdrawals from the heart of your spouse than deposits into your spouse's heart, do you think you have caused him to deflate more than feel energized by you? Today's action: as a husband, in the next 24 hours, I will do one thing that feels loving to my wife and watch to see if her spirit livens up. As a wife, I will do one thing that feels respectful to my husband and watch to see if his spirit softens toward me. Okay, that's a good challenge. Number 3, see a pink and blue difference that many have testified was an aha moment that changed their marriage for the better. Let me just pause it for one moment. What is your male or female approach to your spouse during conflict? Pink and blue perspectives lead to misunderstanding. It colors what we see, hear, and say. XX and XY chromosome. Though you and your spouse are equal as male and female, you are not the same. There is an XX and XY chromosome. There is a sperm and egg. If gender doesn't matter, then why the warning on every alcoholic beverage? According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects. Gender differences are a reality that affect us physically, socially, and emotionally. For instance, the brain in girls in the womb is flooded with certain chemicals 400% more than the brain of boys. Hey, I'm offended that. No, I'm just kidding. Which contribute significantly to the nurturing nature in females. Estrogen and testosterone cannot be ignored. Neuropsychiatrist Luann Brizendine, who is both a researcher and a clinician, wrote in her book, The Female Brain, out of the 30,000 genes in the human genome, the less than 1% variation between the sexes is small. But that percentage difference influences every single cell in our bodies, from the nerves that register pleasure and pain to the neurons that transmit perception, thoughts, feelings, and emotion. She also wrote, males and females become reactive to different kinds of stress. Girls begin to react more to relationship stresses and boys to challenges to their authority. Wow, that is very true. Relationship conflict is what drives a teen girl's stress system wild. She needs to be liked and socially connected. A teen boy needs to be respected. Okay, all agreed. All good with that. Though equal, not the same. Have you drifted away from believing God established these differences to complement the other? Do you feel that any established difference will be detrimental to females? When you learn that a good willed man needs to feel respected for who he is as a human being, apart from his performance, do you remark this is rooted in his narcissism? Let me just pause for a moment. Or do you believe that God designed these differences to create teamwork, that both of you bring to the table something very special to reflect the image of God? Think of it this way: when pink and blue are blended, you see purple, the color of royalty, the color of God. Together, as a husband and wife, you reflect his image. We read in Genesis 1:27, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. $50,000 was recently spent on a major study of those who had engaged in the love and respect material. Out of 15 major categories that had proved helpful in our materials, research showed that the number one area that was most beneficial to both husbands and wives was valuing God's design of males and females. These folks realized that though men and women are equal, they are not the same. Many of them made an adjustment during conflicts and disagreement. They changed their approach. Instead of judging their spouse as wrong and abnormal for feeling and seeing differently, they concluded that neither is wrong, just different. They pulled back during disagreements over preferences from a condescending tone that sounded unloving and disrespectful. They began to appreciate the male and female differences in solving conflict. He concluded, she isn't trying to be disrespectful, but seeking to do the loving thing. She realized he isn't trying to be unloving, but wishing to do the honorable thing. What did I share with these couples? Is she loving or disrespectful? When there is a conflict, a wife generally moves toward the husband to connect because she cares. The research on the nurturing nature of a woman is off the charts. She is a caregiver, thus, she confronts because she cares. She offers her complaints and criticisms to help the marriage and to help him. However, the research points out that ongoing criticism, which she offers to help him, feel like contempt to the male. He feels like she's using this topic as another opportunity to send him a message that she does not like who he is as a person and that he needs to change and become more loving like she is. He feels she finds him inadequate and unacceptable as a man. However, as a woman and a wife, she thinks she sounds loving. She knows she is driven to do the loving thing in the relationship, yet to him, she sounds disrespectful. Both are right. Who's right? The answer is yes. Who's right? Yes. It is. It just depends on whether or not you're recording in pink or in blue. It comes down to the male and female views of the same situation. Few conflicts are between good and evil. Instead, most conflicts arise between all differing preferences over what is okay and what is best, such as should we talk more about our issues or talk less about our issues? For example, many wives wish to talk about marital problems on a daily basis to keep the relationship up to date and prevent a major marital problem, whereas a husband feels if you're talking on a daily basis about marital problems, you have a major marital problem. Neither are wrong for feeling as they do. They're just different, as pink is from blue. Is this, Dr. Seuss? This is an honest difference among two people of goodwill. However, because the culture of intimacy is more pink in orientation. Oh, give me a break. Are you kidding me? Do you know how feminized society is? The feminist movement is so crazy. I'm talking about the neo one, not the one where women should be treated as equals and be able to vote and all that. Not talking about that. I'm talking about we don't need men and men are idiots and women should be fighting men in UFC and stuff like that. Like, really? Okay, whatever. The wife is defended while the husband is viewed as wrong, since he ought not to feel as he feels. You ought not to feel as you feel. In time, both can nurse a resentment toward the other, and the tone of their conversation sound unloving and disrespectful. This makes things worse. For example, I'm doing this audio newsletter, but I'm sure if a woman did it, oh, it would be so much different and probably better too. Like, what's her name? She did the audio book. Totally professional and Grammy quality. This, what I'm doing is like slacker, like, I don't know. Anyway, is he respectful or unloving? On the other hand, during a marital conflict, many men sense the contention can escalate beyond what is appropriate. So he likes to de escalate the dispute by disengaging and dropping the matter. Exactly, makes perfect sense to me. To him, it's not that big of a deal. In his blue view, withdrawing is an honorable way to protect the relationship. This is what he does with his best buddy when they get into an argument. Yeah, it's like, you know what? Agree to disagree. We respect each other, but let's just stop talking about it. We do something else. Men can be lethal, so they must avoid getting too riled. Thus, they withdraw to physically calm down. They need to drop it and forget it before it escalates out of control. Men value this approach. It makes sense to them. The friendship trumps the squabble. I mean, I don't know how this translates to world leaders, but I mean, say you have two men with nuclear weapons, they know this is getting too heated. Let's just back away and think rationally before we kill each other and this planet explodes. But if you have two women, you know what? Not a good idea to have women with nuclear weapons, in my opinion. We'll probably all be dead a long time ago. Uh, this especially makes sense when understanding the male physiology. Research shows that during marital conflict, a husband's heartbeat per minute can rise to 99 BPMs. This is warrior mode. This is what happens to him physiologically just before throwing himself on a hand grenade to save his buddy in time of war. But because he knows he's not in a serious fight with his wife, There must be flight to calm down. He must pull back. He must withdraw. By the way, a wife can look like she's on a warpath, but her BPMs are normal. What? They are? She feels comfortable in the ocean of emotion. Not me. Particularly because she knows her goal, mutual apologies and connection. Nope. No, that's not where she usually goes. Usually goes to yelling and breakups. That's where it usually goes. Interestingly, research at the University of Washington studied 2,000 couples for 20 years and reported that 85% of all husbands do this. There's something within the male temperament that processes life this way. This is not stereotyping the male, but proving a gender difference. When it comes to marriage, men withdraw to help the relationship, not hurt the relationship. But most wives find this unimaginable. However, the research points out that when a husband withdraws and stonewalls, the vast majority of wives feel this is an act of hostility. She could not imagine pulling back over such a minor criticism. When he refuses to talk to her, she feels very unloved, especially because she cares and wants to connect. Because of love, she feels rejected when she chases after him and he tells her to leave him alone and to quit trying to pick a fight, which she knows she isn't trying to do. On the other hand, to him, she is violating the honor code in the face of him trying to do the respectful thing by dropping the matter. Thus, as a man and husband, he thinks he sounds respectful because he knows he is driven to do the honorable thing in the relationship. However, in her world as a woman, this feels and sounds unloving. Both are right. Who is right? Again, the answer is yes. It just depends on whether or not you are recording in pink or in blue. Neither are wrong, they're just different. However, because the culture of intimacy is more pink in orientation, the wife is defended more often. The sentiments of the husband seem marginal at best. Isn't it interesting that both feel they are doing the loving or respectable thing, but come across to the other as disrespectful and unloving? This explains why we do not hear our tone. To him, he sounds respectful, not unloving. To her, she sounds loving, not disrespectful. Each knows that they are right within themselves and their spouse is wrong. This hinders their friendship. Their marriage feels less positive. Both feel less satisfied about the relationship. And sometimes I would outright just say it. I'd say, I'm doing this because of love, because I know if it gets worse, it's just going to be a big fight and we're going to regret what we're going to do and say. We're going to say and do things we'll regret. But then I remember that on the flip side, she would say, I'm just doing this because I love you or whatever, like because I care. That's why I'm doing this. And I thought, what? That's so messed up. I would say that. That's so messed up. Doesn't make any sense to me. It didn't back then, but in light of what I'm reading here, it makes total sense because men and women are just so wired differently. It's nice to know now, um, for future reference, that from a women's perspective, just the way they're created with the different chemicals we have and the different gender roles, to get a good perspective on not just the man's perspective, but a female perspective too. It'll help to diffuse a lot of situations and for more mutual understanding. So, and not too many misunderstandings, which lead to very bad fights and wrong motivations, or at least you assume that they have a wrong motivation, but maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Successful couples. We ended the last email with these questions. How do you deal with those disagreements when you know you're right and your spouse is wrong? Good question. What do you do when there has been or could be a pattern of strong disagreements that leave you frustrated, hurt, or angry? My answer is that successful couples do not have less conflict than other couples, but they know how to deal with their conflicts. And one of their first lessons is uh, successful couples learn is that neither is wrong, just different as pink is from blue. Both can be right based on their male and female perspective. Matthew 19:4. Okay. I don't know how that applies to Matthew 19:4, but okay, I'm going to just, all right, just agree. Men and women are different, I suppose. Today's question: will I refrain from saying my husband is unloving when he's trying to do the respectful thing? And then, men, will I refrain from saying my wife is disrespectful when she's trying to do the loving thing? Will I control my tongue? Today's action: when my pink wife, pink wife, appears disrespectful, I will trust that she is trying to do the loving thing in most cases. Yeah, I remember. Um, I try to remember. Oh, she's fighting because she cares. Still didn't make a lot of sense to me, but you just try to go, okay, all right, I'll just accept that, and not take it personally. And that actually works when you say, I'm not going to take it personal. It's not about an attack on me. It's attack on the issue. And then you go, okay, yeah, let's attack this issue together. And when my blue husband appears unloving, I will trust that he is usually trying to do the honorable thing. I will start believing that most often my spouse is not wrong, just different. As different as pink is from blue. Dr. Seuss. Recognize number 4. Recognize that the method you use to motivate your spouse could be having the opposite effect you intend, even though you have goodwill. Um, Sorry, I'm going on for a long time now. So I'm just, it's not getting through to my brain. Recognize the method you use to motivate your spouse could be having the opposite effect you intend. Okay, even though you have goodwill. Are you negative during conflict to motivate your spouse to be positive? I discovered something. I found that within our nature as husbands and wives, we have a default reaction based on our maleness and femaleness. Actually, I'm going to take a break and just have a snack because I feel like we're at the halfway point and I need some gas in the tank before I continue. All right, number 4. Repeat that again. Recognize that the method you use to motivate your spouse could be having the opposite effect you intend, even though you have goodwill. Are you negative during conflict to motivate your spouse to be positive? I discovered something. I found that within our nature as husbands and wives, we have a default reaction based on our maleness and femaleness. A husband's default mode. When a husband feels disrespected, his default mode or default mode is to naturally react in ways that feel unloving to his wife. Is this why God commands a husband to love, to counter this proclivity? Though he is not always conscious of this disposition, she is. For example, 85% of husbands withdraw and stonewall during marital conflict. To a wife, that feels like an act of hostility, whereas to him, it feels like the right and honorable thing to do to prevent things from escalating out of control. From his vantage point, he doesn't see his reaction as unloving, but more a reaction to her disrespect. This explains why he doesn't apologize, though his wife stands in front of him, fully expecting him to apologize. And just a little joke here, but maybe those Telemundo, series where the wife and the husband are fighting and she slaps him and, just keep going at it and yelling and yelling. Maybe this is not what Latinos do. I think Latinos just they just let it escalate more and more to the point of, something they'll regret. But that's a teleseries anyway. Telemundo. Stereotypes. I don't know if those are true or not. The husband, actually, Latinos are very emotional people. I think I have a little bit of that in me too. We're just so emotional, so fired up in good ways and bad ways. So it works both ways. Does a husband ever see his lack of love? Yes, many times he sees it, but he uses his negative reaction to motivate her to change, to become more positive. So get this. He withholds love to teach her to be more respectful. He withdraws and stonewalls to send the message, stop treating me disrespectfully. He isn't trying to be mean spirited or unloving, but is definitely, but is defensively reacting to what he feels is offensive behavior on her part. In his heart, he feels de energized and deflated when she disses him. He knows at one level this isn't her goal, but it feels like this since no one talks to him the way she does. Let me just repeat that. He knows at one level this isn't her goal, but it feels like this since no one talks to him the way she does. He wonders, is she just using this topic as an opportunity to send me a message that she doesn't like who I am as a human being? Unfortunately, when a man verbalizes his feelings about needing respect, a wife is apt to say, well, you don't deserve my respect. And besides, this is narcissistic, or they'll just say, it's not about you, or why do you make things about you? It's not about you. Why are you playing the victim and all that? Yeah, it happens. I remember, I feel like I'm bringing up old wounds, where it's like, don't throw a pity party for yourself, things like that. From then on, he remains even quieter. Yeah, you got it. When the culture labels these male sentiments as narcissistic, which it could be, in the same way a woman might be a prima donna for wanting love and attention, and the wife uses this profile, it shuts men down because men do not have a voice and vocabulary to humbly defend their deepest need. Their only recourse is silent anger. He now withholds love with the hope that she'll awaken to his need for respect and her disrespectful attitudes. Of course, this doesn't work. A husband's unloving reaction does not motivate a wife's respect. In my book, Love and Respect, I explain how to spell love to a wife. I created an acronym, couple. A wife needs closeness, openness, understanding, peacemaking, loyalty, and esteem. When she receives these, she feels loved. As I discussed a couple with one husband in my office, he put his head down on my table in deep sorrow. He said to me, I did the opposite of every one of these to teach my wife to respect me. I decided not to love her in those ways that you mentioned until she started showing me more respect. After being mistreated for months on end, she left me. I shared with him, you cannot deprive your wife of her need for love as a way of motivating her to meet your need for respect. A wife's default mode. Man, that hits hard. When a wife feels unloved, her default mode is to naturally react in ways that feel disrespectful to her husband. Is this why God commands a wife to put on a respectful demeanor to counter this bent? Though she is not always conscious of this temperament, he is. For example, most wives complain and criticize during marital conflict. To a husband, ongoing criticism feels like disrespect for who he is as a person, whereas to her, it feels like the right and loving thing to do in order to reconcile and bring the relationship up to date. From her vantage point, she doesn't intend to be disrespectful per se, but is hurting over her husband's failure to be loving and sensitive. She sees his lack of love, not her disrespect. Does a wife ever see her disrespect? Yes, a wife detects her disrespect, but comments later on, he should know I really didn't mean it. I was trying to get him to understand how he hurt me so he'd apologize and we could reconnect. She turns negative to motivate him to be positive. She is disrespectful to get love. She complains and criticizes in ways that, though carried along by a spirit of disdain, she hopes that her look of disgust will awaken him to his failure to love her as he ought. She feels this should be obvious to her husband until her son marries a woman who treats him in the same disrespectful way. And then this mother realizes this isn't obvious to her son nor to her husband. Even so, to her credit, she isn't trying to be mean spirited, but is defensively reacting to what feels offensive to her. She feels insecure and needs reassurance that he loves her, and an apology from him would do her soul wonders. To her, this isn't rocket science, so his refusal to say, I'm sorry, and sometimes you try, but it still doesn't work, reinforces to her that he really doesn't care about her. He really doesn't care about her like she cares about him. She is quick to say, I'm sorry, but he rarely expresses, I'm sorry. And if he does, it's to get her off his back. Yeah, actually, maybe sometimes he do say it in a way that's not sincere, or it may sound that way. Not because he intends to change, just to get her off his back. Yeah. Let me add, she views being respectful as being nice, and being nice doesn't work. So her weapon of choice is contempt, which she doesn't want to choose, but she feels she has no other recourse. Besides, her disrespect gets his attention despite the fact that it never achieves long term what she hopes. And I want to just, I think the way Western women are so much this way, whereas the women I guess in the Eastern hemisphere, uh, they're way more respectful. They, not that this will never happen. I'm sure it will in very intense fights, but those are the most extreme fights. Whereas I think overall, this is more of a Western kind of approach to relationships. But I'm not saying, you know, I think this does happen around the world, but this only occurs in the East in terms of those really bad fights, like the really bad ones where, we really need an intervention or else this is leading to, World War III and divorce and all that. But In terms of Western society, I think it just happens in the normal. It's like you're just going to McDonald's and you're just looking at to what to order and you're having a fight and it gets into this right away, even though it's just something so trivial. So yeah, I'm just want to put that out there. Western versus Eastern. A wife's disrespectful reaction doesn't motivate a husband's love. A wife says, I would go on communication overkill. I tried and tried to get him to talk to me about what he was feeling, but often he saw our discussions as arguments, and he got tired of having to work so hard to get along in our marriage. On top of everything, when I get the slightest bit emotional, my voice goes up 10 decibels, and he absolutely cannot stand it when my voice gets loud. So every time we had a discussion, he would retreat from me, which made me work even harder to communicate and pull him back into the conversation. A useless cycle for certain. How could I be so blind? Better yet, how could I be so deaf to what had been going on? I realized that had been that I had been treating my husband disrespectfully. Thinking back on my actions and words, I could feel the disrespect signals I was sending my husband. I was so caught up in my search for unconditional love and validation, and I was blind to what I was doing. This raises a question. This raises a question that, man, this newsletter is very emotional. It's laughter and serious, kind of sad in some ways. It's very real and it hits home. I think there's no relationship that never had an argument I mean, especially the ones that are really emotionally engaged and involved and they just give it their all, you know? But ones where they don't really care about each other, they're not going to get into, they're like, yeah, it's okay, do whatever you want. But I don't think that's the case with a lot of Latinos, Latino relationships. Right. You take a break. This raises a question. What's the question? How effective is it to be unloving and disrespectful as a way of motivating your spouse to show you respect and love? Long term, it is unproductive to be negative to stimulate your spouse to be positive. This MO or method of operating is misguided. Your spouse will feel de energized and defeated, if not bullied. And yeah, I think it's a Western thing, Western approach to relationships. But not only that, it's also a worldly approach because those who are in the faith, I think they tend to lean towards this love and respect because the scriptures just keep reminding us about that and keep, when you keep repeating something in your head and keep looking to the examples in scriptures, not that you're going to be perfect, but at least you have some standard to work towards. Though your goal is to get them to love and respect you, you are depriving your spouse of the love and respect they need to be motivated to meet your need. Okay, it's a lot of needs. This modus operandi falls short because it does not touch the heart of your spouse any more than your heart turns positive on the heels of your spouse's negative reactions to you. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Though you expect your spouse to decode your intent, that you are negative for a good reason, it is a rare person who softens and turns pleasant when treated in a way that appears harsh and contemptuous. Though you never intend to be mean spirited, your spouse will inevitably struggle to trust your goodwill. What if a spouse is undeserving of love and respect? What if your spouse deserves the negative reaction due to their bad actions? Your spouse deserves to hear the truth about their bad actions, spoken in love and respect toward their spirit. You must separate their fleshy actions from their inner person. In other words, confront their wrongdoing without appearing hostile and contemptuous toward their heart. Hate the sin, love the sinner. Truth carries its own weight. Why be right but wrong at the top of your voice? The key is for you to display an unconditional positive regard toward their spirit while addressing their hurtful and offensive conduct. The key is for you to display an unconditional positive regard toward their spirit while addressing their hurtful and offensive conduct. Wow, that's really deep, actually. That's so deep, I have to read it 3 times. So, display an unconditional positive regard. So, you're positive toward who they are while addressing their hurtful conduct. Okay, so it's about behavior, not attacking them. We will address in another email the importance of showing unconditional positive regard toward your spouse's spirit while confronting behaviors that injure the marriage. This is not easy, but is necessary. This is crucial since the default mode during marital conflict is to show negative regard toward the spirit of the other person. When hurt, it is within our nature to be unloving and disrespectful in our reactions. Not loving and respectful as our first impulse. Yeah, it takes the Spirit of God. Winning another's heart. Remember, when you display a hateful and uncivil spirit toward the spirit of your spouse, you will not win their heart. Even though what you say is true, you will not influence them to face themselves. They will close off their spirit to you out of fear, arrogance, resentment, and shame. They will not feel fond feelings of affection and admiration for you. Your negative reactions are imprudent, maybe impudent. I don't know. Oh, imprudent, is that a word? And impractical means of motivating your spouse to respond more positively to you. Though you feel they are unfriendly and insulting, having violated you in the marriage in the first place, you will not help move the marriage forward by fighting fire with fire, not long term. You know in your heart that you cannot advance the relationship through a malicious and mocking demeanor. You cannot motivate your spouse to be good by being bad, or to be good to you by being bad, no matter how bad they have been. The pot would be calling the kettle black. There's a lot of cliches here. Do it differently. Is it time to do something different? If your default mode is to react in negative, unloving, and disrespectful ways, is it time to do what works? Listen to this husband's testimony. We were in the middle of one of our fights. Fed up, I turned and went into my computer room. I left her screaming in the kitchen. I sat down at the computer, but as I did so, my spirit said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. That is a big time saying in Alcoholics Anonymous. Actually, it's kind of like insanity. If you expect the same result or a different result doing the same things, the definition of insanity, someone said. So I got up and went back into the kitchen. I stood in front of my wife with my arms folded. I realized that posture was wrong. I unfolded my arms and put them down by my side, which was hard to do. I then softly said, go ahead, I'm listening. She began to talk again. Suddenly she said, you're not very comfortable, are you? I said, no, but if we don't try something different, nothing will ever change. She began to cry, and the fight was over. Man, you know, you hear about what's that infomercials where they're like, yeah, your product is great and it's the best thing ever, but that was real. Like I could live that. Like I was there. Like wow, that was a good example. I could tell that was real, is genuine. I could just feel the people were very real. Those were real characters. That's how life actually is. Anyway, today's question: do you find it in your nature to react in unloving and disrespectful ways in order to motivate your spouse to show you more respect and love? How is that working for you? Today's action: I will guard against my default mode. As a wife, I will watch over my tendency to be disrespectful. As a husband, I will police against my disposition to react in unloving ways. Furthermore, I will not be negative to motivate my spouse to be positive. As a wife, I will not be disrespectful to motivate my husband to love me. As a husband, I will not be unloving to motivate my wife to respect me. So that means don't lock yourself in your computer room, fellas, or your man cave. I will have a positive regard toward the spirit of my spouse while addressing the negative behaviors in the marriage. And this is an exceptional newsletter because it's very practical. You can use this in your relationship, your marriage, etc. Jump off, number 5. Jump off what I call the crazy cycle that you keep spinning on because you innocently overlook decoding why you and your spouse react to each other. It's a mouthful. When you react in unloving and disrespectful ways, what happens? I call it the crazy cycle. Without love, she reacts without respect. And without respect, he reacts without love. Each's negative reaction, or each one's negative reaction, triggers the other's negative reaction. The crazy cycle spins. As we have said, men and women both need love and respect equally, the felt the felt need during conflict differs. As I referenced in an earlier email, I asked 7,000 people this question. When you're in a conflict with your spouse, do you feel unloved or disrespected? 83% of the husbands said they feel disrespected. 72% of the wives said they felt unloved. From there, each negatively reacts to the other, as the crazy cycle states. A husband's part on the crazy cycle. Let me take a sip. When a husband feels disrespected, he tends to react in ways that feel unloving to his wife. For example, 85% of husbands prefer at a certain point in marital conflict to withdraw and stonewall due to the fact that physiologically their heartbeats can quickly rise to 99 beats per minute. He shuts down to calm down. He stops talking to prevent the conflict from his vantage point from escalating. He feels heated walking away, or he feels heated talking. He feels heated talking only makes things worse when standing toe to toe because it feels provocative, not conciliatory, which is why he requests that she leave him alone instead of following him from room to room to talk or texting them 1,000 times or keep calling them 100 times. Then the man turns off his phone or puts it on do not disturb. Besides, when he does talk to tell his wife that he feels disrespected or that she ought not to feel as unloved as she does, when he does talk, okay, to tell his wife, okay, right, she ought not to feel unloved. Both comments go over like a Led Zeppelin. Sure enough, she rejects his comments and is now more upset. At this juncture, he gets angry and pulls away or says something that sounds harsh and unloving, to which she lashes back with words of contempt that could sober a drunken sailor. Ooh. If this husband walks off and refuses to reconcile and reconnect, this leaves his wife jarred, hurting, insecure, and fearful. The crazy cycle keeps happening. Husband writes, from the beginning, heated arguments happen basically as multiple variations of the crazy cycle you described. At the beginning, she established that my walking away from arguments was a sign of weakness. So I learned to stay and confront. They'll say, why are you running away? You can't run away from everything in life. I've known all along that she's been crying out for something from me, but I'm unable to decipher, despite the fact that I know it has to do with love and my not fulfilling her needs at what she calls her core. My words and actions have consistently fallen short of what she wants, mostly evident by her growing displeasure and apparent contempt for me. In staying, I exposed myself to her criticism, which I perceived as personal attack. So I defended, deflected, and eventually attacked back. In stating truths from my perspective, I have often wounded her by raising my voice and saying things that to her are catastrophic, but to me are not so severe. I feel like Data. They are not so severe. They might seem catastrophic to you, but to me, they are not so severe. Imagine you tell that to a woman. Oh man, prepare to have a vase thrown at your head. she she's much better equipped. Picture. What? Dad, try that again. She is much better equipped to hurt with words. Oh, tell me about it. And has said things that have resulted that would have resulted in death quarrels had a man said them. Oh, you bet, man, that man would be shot in the heart, stabbed in the nuts. Oh man, the crazy cycle has escalated so much that at the peak of her vigorously expanding what a jerk I am, I've crossed her stated boundaries by threatening to leave, arguing in front of the kids, screaming at her, and other infractions that I cannot think about right now. I can go on, but this is the general theme. A wife's part on the crazy cycle. Unfortunately, when a wife feels unloved, she reacts in ways that feel disrespectful to her husband. She isn't trying to be disrespectful as an end in itself. There's a lot of repetition here, I noticed. However, she appears that way with gestures of contempt. Her eyes darken, her face turns sour. She puts her hand on her hip, points with a scolding finger, sighs, rolls her eyes, and uses words of disrespect to convey her upset. No one in his world talks to him in this way, so it is difficult for him not to feel disrespected. Weakly, she criticizes and complains. Of course, she does this to help him understand her feelings and to empathize with her and then express his sorrow. Instead, he closes off. Her negativity doesn't solicit his compassion, but triggers the crazy cycle. What is so ironic is that she simply longs to connect with the men that she loves. Her motivation is virtuous. Of course, her method of messaging is way too negative for a husband. He views it as nagging and really as her way of letting him know that she finds him unacceptable and inadequate as a person. What he hears is that he's never good enough. He also hears that she can never be happy. No happy wife, no happy life. By the way, it's been said that a woman wants the relationship more positive. Romance me, surprise me, make me laugh. But her husband just wants the relationship less negative. Can we just have one day when everything is okay, when you're okay, and when I'm okay? A wife writes, "It pains me. I was one of those yellers begging for love. The crazies went on for 25 years. I made him feel terrible. I gave him no respect. The crazy time was day and night. The cycle didn't stop, it just kept cycling." The definition of craziness. If this is you, a change is in order. As you know, a person who's crazy keeps doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different positive results, but inevitably experiencing the same negative results. The crazy cycle in marriage echoes this. Every time a husband chooses to be hostile to motivate his wife, to show him respect, he gets disrespect. Unfortunately, some guys insanely think maybe next time she'll show me respect. Or each time a wife chooses to be contemptuous to motivate her husband to show her love, she gets no love. Yet, as crazy as it sounds, some gals think maybe next time he'll show me love. He needs love and she needs respect. However, hear me. Though wives need respect and husbands need love, we have found no wait, that's the opposite. Wives need love and husbands respect. Got mixed up there. We have found that most husbands are assured of their wives' love. So that in conflict, these men interpret the wife as disrespectful, not as unloving. Please read the first email again if this remains a stumbling block to you. Most men say, "You aren't respecting me," not "You don't love me." Actually, I remember saying both, but but yeah, I tended towards the first because I think it became more based as time went on. Whereas at the beginning, I was definitely more like yeah, the love me part of it. But anyway, and though wives need respect, when a husband treats her disrespectfully week after week, she will say, "How can you say you love me and treat me disrespectfully?" When a woman is in love, she wonders, "Does he love me as much as I love him?" Do you do your part to reduce the craziness, and it usually works. A husband writes, "The love respect cycle is so true. I've been married for 32 years, and when my wife and I have a disagreement that turns into a few short snips and then silence, it's usually not because of the original issue or act. That really wasn't all that big a deal with me. It's more her reaction to my being irked." Been there before, and it's a reaction that sparks my anger and silence. Crazy cycle, here we come. Now that I know what triggers this unproductive reaction, even if she doesn't respond in respect, I recognize what it is that sets me off, and I can break the cycle before it gets started. A wife tells me, my husband and I have been married for 15 years and have 4 children. We have a good marriage, but it has had its definite crisis moments through the years due to that love slash respect or lack of cycle that you speak of. For my part, I have been conveying disrespect to my husband for most of our marriage and have for many years felt unloved. I know that we are both good willed, as you say, but the pattern has left us both frustrated. I know that I didn't realize what a role I was playing with my disrespect, which I really did feel for a variety of reasons, but most of which stemmed from feeling unloved. 18 months later, I asked how she was doing. Through a keener awareness of the love respect issue, prayer, and spiritual growth, my husband and I are doing wonderfully. I definitely took away the main theme, and I'm working hard to reverse any damage the previous years have caused. She commented that she has settled into a deeper understanding of him and his needs, and she is seeing the fruit of that. My spouse has no right to feel unloved and disrespected. Let me insert an important point. When you enter the crazy cycle, your spouse may have no valid reason for their interpretation of you as unloving and disrespectful. I'm not arguing that your spouse is justified for feeling unloved and disrespected. I'm highlighting their mindset behind their reaction. The key is for you to counter their erroneous sentiment by making an extra effort to sound loving and respectful. And that takes a lot of work. It's not so much easier said than done. When you actually do it, you're going, man, this feels like pulling out a splinter or something out of my eyeballs. This best enables you to diffuse the tension and to point out to them their misinterpretation of your heart. Whereas a hostile and contemptuous reaction from you only validates their ungrounded suspicions and keeps you spinning on the crazy cycle. Bottom line, don't misrepresent your deepest heart or your spouse will misinterpret you. Today's question. Though we all need love and respect equally, does Ephesians 5:33 capture the felt need during conflict in your marriage? Do you go around and around on the crazy cycle because as a wife, when you feel unloved, you appear disrespectful in reaction, and as a husband, when you feel disrespected, you appear unloving in your reaction? Is it time to soften your negative reaction without fear that you will lose power or your identity or that your spouse will be unresponsive? Today's action. If my spouse sounds unloving or disrespectful, I will not react in like manner. I will stop the crazy cycle. Though I feel unloved as a wife, I will guard against being disrespectful. This will only put us on the crazy cycle. I can communicate my upset with a respectful demeanor and appropriate words. Doing this will not cause me to lose power, a sense of self, or compromise the truth. I can respectfully ask, how can I tell you of my need for your love and strength without you feeling that I'm sending a message of disrespect? This is more than likely to soften his heart and cause him to hear yours. Okay, let's pretend someone's telling me this. How can I tell you of my need for your love and strength without you feeling that I'm sending a message of disrespect? Whoa. Yeah, he will definitely tell you how what you can do. Though I feel disrespected as a husband, I will guard against being unloving when communicating my frustration. I need not compromise, being a man of honor who speaks the truth in love. Just because she irritates me and appears disrespectful, this will only put us on the crazy cycle. I can lovingly ask, how can I tell you of my need for respect apart from my performance? Oh, this needs the pop filter. How can I tell you of my need for respect apart from my performance without you feeling that I am being unfair, egotistical, unteachable, and unloving? It is unlikely that she will take advantage of you or wear the pants, but will actually soften and probably say, I'm sorry, please tell me what you feel and need. Holy, okay, number 6. That's just, I'm gonna scan down let me just pause it and scan down. See how much longer. I think there's still like 20 minutes. Soften the spirit of your spouse by writing a few sentences in a note that I will help you write. What happens when you say I'm sorry? Something powerful transpires when you say I'm sorry. Because of this, if I can be so bold, I want you to apologize. You can do so face to face or via a note. 5 possible reasons to apologize. If you have sounded unloving or disrespectful, please apologize. Based on email number 1, concerning your conversational tone, say, I'm sorry about my unloving and disrespectful tone. You don't deserve this. That tone is never helpful or effective. Will you forgive me? I mean, these things are so easy to just say. To just read, but to actually do it is hard. If you have neglected to fill their emotional tank for love or respect, please apologize. Based on email number 2 concerning making deposits of love and respect in the heart of your spouse, say, I'm sorry about stepping on your air hose. Instead of meeting your need for love and respect, I reacted in ways that felt unloving and disrespectful. Will you forgive me? If you have wrongly judged your spouse's pink or blue perspective, please apologize. Based on email number 3 concerning your male or female approach, say, I feel badly saying you were wrong. Neither of us were wrong. I can see that going bad. I feel badly saying you were wrong. Neither of us were wrong. No, you were wrong. Hey, no, you were wrong. Started a fight. Neither of us were wrong. No, you were wrong. No, you were wrong. That can go south quickly. Neither of us were wrong. We are just different in our perspectives. I could just see that going south. This was an honest difference of opinion between pink and blue. Will you forgive me? Slap. You called me pink? If you're negative, to motivate your spouse to be positive, please apologize. Based on email number 4, concerning your default mode of negativity, say, I was wrong for being so negative toward you. As though this would motivate you to be positive toward me. I am so sorry. Will you forgive me? If you contributed to the crazy cycle, please apologize. Based on email 5, concerning your unloving or just disrespectful reaction, say, I was way too defensive and reactive. Will you forgive me for reacting in such an unloving and disrespectful manner, which triggered your negative reaction? And from there, things got crazy. I was wrong. What if your spouse is far more guilty in the marriage than you are? Ooh, this is a little bit of a tug of war. The fact that you're doing the 15-day plan suggests you have goodwill and are committed to helping your marriage. If you are the only one of the two of you going through this plan, it suggests you are less guilty. I salute you and affirm you. However, you can only control your actions and reactions to your spouse. You cannot control the ultimate outcomes in your spouse. Your spouse must make his or her own internal choice to change. You can appeal to them to change, provide motivations, and bring them under the influence, good influence, not the, you know, but you cannot coerce them. And the truth is, you don't want to coerce them. If you did, you'd immediately say, "You're just loving and respecting me because I forced you to do this." But when you create the most loving and respectful environment, usually you influence your spouse to respond because your spouse wants to respond and chooses to respond. Not infrequently, your apology sets in motion a positive response. So try not to keep score at this juncture. Just do what you can do. Even if you are only 10% guilty compared to your spouse's 90%, you can energize your marriage by apologizing for your 10%. Simply stated, we have been unloving or disrespectful. Tell your spouse that you are sorry. Be realistic about the past. If your marriage has had bitterness and distrust, your spouse may react negatively to your apology, not because the apology is wrong, but because they don't fully believe it, or because it brings them under conviction and they know they need to apologize, but are too stubborn to get humble at this juncture. Regardless, your apology is the right thing to do, whether or not your spouse responds positively at this time. That's a good point. Testimonies. There is power in an apology. A wife writes, I told him that I apologized for being so disrespectful, that I realized that I had been trying to mold him into what I wanted. I had been trying to mold him into what I wanted, that I really respect him, and I finally realized that he truly does love me. I have to say, that evening is the best discussion we have had in a long time. We talked for hours. Another wife said, my husband and I had a good marriage, but we knew something was missing. Sometimes we both would be so hurt and not understand what happened. Once I read the Love and Respect book, it all made sense. And I instantly started catching myself being disrespectful in my words, my tone of voice, my actions. Each time I acted disrespectfully, I apologized immediately. The crazy cycle is done. And apologizing, it can entail a longer interaction than desired, but doing this humbly can bring long lasting healing. A husband writes about his intention to apologize. I got a chance to put into practice what God had revealed to me about the crazy cycle during the week of vacation. It is a long drive home from Montana to Dallas. We began to talk and I listened. I listened to her frustration over the first 17 years, how she felt rejected. I didn't acknowledge her. She felt that she wasn't a priority. She she felt that our marriage wasn't what God intended and that I wasn't the spiritual leader she hoped for. There was a lot of pain she expressed, and typically I would feel attacked and would withdraw. But God gave me the ability to listen. He changed my perspective as a result of your description of the crazy cycle and helped me to listen for her love language rather than my respect language. She said it was a hard conversation and appreciated how I listened and how I apologized for my part. She had not heard or felt my sincerity for a long time. This conversation was a turning point in our relationship, and that's amazing. Some people have been married decades, and it's like it really. It's not just spicing up your marriage. This is really an inflection point where hopefully they just continue in that respectful, loving mindset, and it changes them forever until the end of their lives. It's really great. But it's a biblical principle and very good. So let's just finish. I have one more point here. Today's question: Why would you not apologize for unloving or disrespectful part? For your unloving or disrespectful part? Today's action, I will apologize for my part and what I did that fell short in responding with love and respect. Let me encourage you to stay the course. Though this is a 15-day plan that can produce great results, see this as a game plan that you repeat as needed. For example, the wife above said, each time I acted disrespectfully, I apologized immediately. She gets the game plan. Keep doing this and stay positive and optimistic. Last point, 7. Ironic, isn't it? Seventh day, 7 points. Understand the powerful significance and joy of giving your spouse what they need, but do not deserve. It's like Batman. He's the hero we need, but don't deserve. Do you show unconditional positive regard toward the spirit of your spouse? Why should you show unconditional positive regard toward the spirit of your spouse? When you appear to hate, let me just use this now. When you appear to hate and despise who your spouse is as a person because of the wrong they have done, they'll close off to you. This isn't fair to you, especially if they hurt you in the first place. But it is a fact of human nature. You must decide, will I punish my spouse with hostility and contempt because of what they have done? Or will I move the marriage forward by being a mature person who truthfully confronts wrongdoing, but in a way that feels loving and respectful to the heart of my spouse? The reason we so often hear hate the sin but love the sinner is due to the simple fact that when the sinner feels hated, the sinner closes off and they sometimes go get depressed and end themselves, attack the issue. When you attack your spouse and not the issue, it undermines that sense of connection that two people need to have to resolve a matter and reconcile. You won't move forward positively when you appear bitter and scornful toward who your spouse is as a human being. As a husband, when your wife feels you hate who she is because of what she did wrong, she will not open her heart to you when you try to talk to her and address the issue. As a wife, when your husband feels you have contempt for who he is as a human being, he will close off into any attempt you make to connect with him in a meaningful way. Is this what you want? If not, then you must follow my plan. Be the bigger person and give your spouse the gift of unconditional positive regard toward the image of God within them. Separate their carnal flesh and actions from their deepest soul, especially so if they have humbly confessed and want to turn the corner. The best of us can forget to show positive regard toward the others in our person. Let me illustrate this with 2 common conflicts couples can have, which should serve as healthy reminders to apply this action item. Yeah, these are huge. Money mismanagement. Wow. When you as a husband sound harsh and angry while confronting your wife for significantly overspending the budget, she will shut down, not because of the topic, but because she feels you hate her as a person. Though she may know in her head that you love her, and you know that you love her, emotionally, she's not feeling that way at the moment, even if you tell her that she ought not to feel that way or this way. She, as with every woman I have met, will still wonder, how can he tell me that he loves me and talk to me with harshness and anger? He hates me. He doesn't love me. This is an almost universal feeling on the part of wives. She will personalize this as an attack on who she is. The money is a secondary issue. This is why you must show a positive, loving regard toward her heart as you express your frustration over her money mismanagement. Otherwise, she'll not hear you on the topic of money, but will feel the money The money topic confirms that you don't love her. Though the money issue is real, it is not the root issue. Let me add, there's a wide range of allowance to express negative emotion as long as your wife is assured that you love who she is. She understands the ocean of emotion. That's not her problem. Her problem is her fear that you do not cherish her. These are very practical and straightforward. Uh, Closing up, sexual tensions. When you as a wife sound disrespectful and unfriendly to your husband when talking about your sexual relationship, he will pull away, if not walk away. Your apparent contempt for him on this issue of sex triggers in him the feeling that you find him inadequate as a man and that he is failing to understand your womanly needs. Ironically, though he knows you love him, he has a vulnerability to the feeling that you look down on him as a weak lover. Because he has failed you in this area, if he feels you secretly disrespect him, he will close off. He will personalize this as an attack on who he is. This is why you must show a positive, respectful regard toward his inner man as you convey your hurt over his missteps and understanding your romantic and sexual wishes. Though the sex issue is real, it is not the root issue. He's feeling disrespected as a human being. Let me add, I am not telling you to be a silent doormat on this and other topics. You can say almost anything to a good willed man when you honor who he is as a person as you address the issues that stress you. Differentiate who they are from what they have done. Who they are. Okay, right. What if my spouse has done things that are wrong or unacceptable? How can anyone show love and respect towards these bad things? Again, no one is to love and respect wrongdoing. That's ludicrous. Your spouse may have committed adultery and betrayed you. This is evil. I would never love or respect what your spouse has done. But does this make your spouse an evil enemy? If you treat them as such, they will not open their spirit to you. They will live in fear of your damning and shaming judgment. On the other hand, when you decide to communicate with a positive regard toward their spirit, while expressing righteous indignation over what they've done, you increase the odds your spouse will face themselves. Having such positive regard toward their spirit means reassuring them that you are an ally with goodwill, not an enemy with ill will. It means telling them that your confrontation of their hurtful choices is not to shame them. Rather, it is from your belief in their good heart to make an adjustment. You reassure them that any excessive negative emotion you may express to them is rooted in hurt and disappointment. Oh man, this is just going over my head right now. This is like not making sense to me anymore. Okay, your confrontation of their hurtful choices not to shame them, right? They're good hearted, they can make an adjustment. Reassure them that any excessive negative emotion you may express to them is rooted in hurt and disappointment. It is not from a desire to degrade and disgrace them. When we are trying to send a message to our spouse that we are hurting, frustrated, or fearful, if they feel that the real message is that we regard them as despicable, they will close off to us emotionally. We have all heard the expression, if looks could kill, we must guard against such looks. You can see your spouse as Jesus sees your spouse. 3 of Christ's disciples failed him when he needed them. But his response was, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. They had failed him miserably, but he did not show hostility and contempt towards their hearts, even though what they did left him deeply disappointed, alone, and unsupported. Does Jesus feel the same toward your spouse? And can you imitate Christ? Yes and yes. So today's question, during conflict, do you appear to hate and despise who your spouse is as a person? Does this best explain why they close off to you when they close off? Today's action, I will show positive regard toward the spirit of my spouse no matter what. As a husband, I will reassure my wife that I love who she is as a person, even though I feel frustrated by some of the things she does. As a wife, I'll reassure my husband that I respect who he is as a man, though I am hurt at times by what he has done. Okay, comments. I read this book many years ago. There are so many factors make a person who they are. I like to think of everyone who's unconverted as a little child. They don't know how to act because they don't know how Yah wants them to act. That is why the Messiah's last words, go and teach. Another thing. So many marriages are unions that should have never happened. Both men and women are in real life living hell, living with spouses who care for just for themselves and nothing for Yah and His word and ways. And the converted spouse is doing everything in their power to try to form a normal, loving marriage. They face terrific, more like terrible trials daily. I've seen that some spouses die unconverted in the middle of all the converted one has tried to develop, teach in humility the unconverted. What that is very cryptic. Let me just drop this in the middle of your love and respect. Boom. Okay, no context at all. I read a newsletter similar to this in the past. However, they all somewhat ignored the plight of the modern feminist. When I read about Vashti and Esther, I don't see the king saying, "Oh, I really need to work on how I speak to Vashti and her love and attention. I must have done something that caused her not to respect me." Vashti had the problem, not the king. The modern feminist that many men in the Western Christian world are joined to have a similar problem. I don't know how to address and fix that. Although I'll continue to give advice like what is presented in this newsletter, I don't think it will fix the core of the problem. Well, it depends if both are called. Good response. Well, this is really practical, and I think it can work, and even in a worldly marriage. But both people have to try. They can't just be one party doing it. I mean, it'll be only successful to a limited degree if it's just one person trying, and that other person may just continue being the same old person and give up and all that. But you know what? Just it's better to try this and not to. And like they were saying in the comments, if someone isn't really about Yah and his word and really loving and obeying him, then you're still missing that dimension. You're still going to feel incomplete. Yeah, you'll love each other and you'll still, do all those carnal things and still love each other and understand each other better. But when it comes down to the real nitty gritty and the things that really matter in the direction of your life and the way you think, the way you talk, and what you choose to think about, talk about, and do. And it's just such a contrast that it's like oil and water. They just don't mix, even though you try your best for them to mix. It's a dilemma. That's why it's better just not to get involved with people not in the faith and not, or observant or trying to, who are not on the same level, even if they are new to this. You have to still gauge: are they mature enough? Do they really love the same way? I'm not that they should love them exactly the same way or be, but that's really important too. I don't know. I think that's also a big factor because you'll be happy in some limited ways if you do this, and these are all great advices. But I still think if you don't see eye to eye spiritually, there's going to be contention on a spiritual dimension. Like these address the physical, emotional, verbal things, issues. But if you don't address the spiritual issues, those are going to be taking place behind the scenes of the unconverted spouse. And that's still a minefield that has to be maneuvered around and cannot be conquered, but except with the spirit of Yah in one and even better in both. because Yah can work with anybody, right? Even with Pharaoh, but that person still has to be humble enough to uh, be open minded and willing to be flexible to other opinions, other beliefs, and just means one thing to tolerate somebody's beliefs, but it's another thing to embrace them and really celebrate them and be part of it, and just and it's another thing altogether. Just be equally passionate, and you have no doubt that even if you know that you met this person and they're already passionate for this way, and so it's a no brainer to just you know to marry them and have a family with them, and you know you're gonna build a solid foundation. So that's all I have to say about this newsletter. It's been a long day. I went through 3 newsletters today, folks. um, Please share and all that, like and comment, because you know I didn't really, the last one I didn't get as many views as I said to get 10 views minimum, but it didn't get it. But I just want to look at these newsletters. They've been controversial regarding politics, and sometimes controversy uh, generates a lot of clicks and views. I mean, if it was just boring and milk toast and just or blank page just saying, this is the jubilees and the da 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 and the same old, right? But when you start seeing things like a little bit of controversy and disagreements, that kind of keeps things interesting, even though we may not see eye to eye on political things and whatnot. Just knowing that there's love and respect between brethren, no matter what, it's just unconditional, and you're going to the same direction. You still have the same goal. You still believe in the same things, and yeah, there's a difference with opinions. You think it's this way, but I think it's this way. But eventually, ultimately, we have the same goal in mind. We have the same priorities. We have the same. Um, yeah, that's it. So anyway, thank you for your time. Shabbat shalom. God bless you all, and good night.